Hello, and welcome to the Dungeon. I'm your host, Rob. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Inquisitive Rogue. I figured we'd get one of the bad ones out of the way, so I don't have to do it later, and we're kind of covering rogues. We've covered a couple of good subclasses. We're going to look at one of the bad ones today, and then we're probably going to finish off the rogue multiclass build before we move on to Sorcerer. So that's the game plan. I don't know if Inquisitive is actually the worst rogue subclass or not, but I would definitely say it's in the running. I find a lot of their features just to be really, really underwhelming. And that's not to say that they're never going to be useful, but they tend to be very specific, and they might require me to put, things like proficiency or even expertise into things like insight, which I may not have really wanted to do. But whatever, let's get into it. At level 3, you get 3 abilities when you choose a subclass. So that's already a great start. 3 abilities. The first one is Eye for Deceit, or Ear for Deceit. Oh, wow. Off to a great start here, aren't I? When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you develop a talent for picking out lies. Whenever you make a Wisdom Insight check to determine whether a creature is lying, treat a roll of 7 or lower on the d20 as an 8. Now, I don't know why they didn't just go with a 10, reliable talent. Either way, though, that's not bad. I like succeeding on those kind of tests. The problem is that it's one specific type. It's not even all Wisdom Insight checks. It's Wisdom Insight checks to see if the opponent or the target is lying. Now, leaving aside the fact that Detect Thoughts or Zone of Truth could have probably done something very similar and probably better in many cases, it's just a very, very specific subset of abilities. And I'm not saying it'll never happen, right? You might have to interrogate somebody, and maybe somebody didn't have those spells that I just mentioned, right? In which case, you could find this ability to be quite useful, especially if you have to interrogate multiple people in the campaign. But you might have other campaigns where you literally never use this ability at all. So I don't think the ability is worthless. I think that under the right circumstances, it could be very, very helpful. But there are spells that can do the same thing, and it's really only helping you if you rolled poorly on that check. And honestly, if you want to be using this ability, you're probably, like I said, going to want to put proficiency into it and maybe even expertise. And the fact that it's wisdom-based, that's just not necessarily great for a rogue. I'd probably have a decent wisdom if I was playing an Inquisitive rogue because, I've got a lot of abilities that are going to use wisdom, it turns out. So that might be worth considering. But either way, let's move on to the next ability. So the next ability is Eye for Detail. I did not say Ear for Detail this time. I got it right. So we had Ear, now we have Eye. Anyways, Eye for Detail. Starting at 3rd level, you can use a bonus action to make a Wisdom Perception check to spot a hidden creature or object, or to make an Intelligence Investigation check to uncover or decipher clues. Again, this ability isn't useless in a certain campaign, or maybe you're doing a lot of investigation, like maybe you have to solve a mystery, a murder mystery or something along those lines. This could be very useful, right? But again, it's investigation. I might be good at that if I'm building this character. I might specifically put points into it, right? Or put proficiency into it. But it's not a traditional rogue thing. It's not like sleight of hand or stealth or anything like that, right? Wisdom perception check. I like having perception as a skill anyways. That's what I probably was going to take no matter what class I am, So that's not so bad. But again, the fact that it's a bonus action doesn't matter if it's outside of combat, right? So you're not really gaining anything by having it be a bonus action instead of a full action. If I'm in combat, then the ability to maybe spot a hidden creature could save me from getting ambushed potentially. There is some value maybe there, but the fact that I'm making this roll means I at least have to be suspicious that there's something going on, and, that just may not be the case, right? Also, it says hidden. It does not say, invisible, for example, right? So, even if the DM rules that I could, maybe detect the fact that there's an invisible creature there, rules as written, I'm still going to have disadvantage to attack him. I won't be able to sneak attack it or anything else. So maybe your DM will kind of go easy on you in that case and decide that invisible and hidden are kind of the same thing. But the way the rules are written, it's, again, somewhat limited ability. And so that's 2 of our 3 abilities already, both of which are okay under specific circumstances, but are definitely not like general skills we're going to be using all the time. And as such, they have rather limited use. The 3rd ability we get, though, is Insightful Fighting, and this is kind of our main core ability. So, you gain the ability to decipher an opponent's tactics and develop a counter to them. As a bonus action, you can make a Wisdom Insight check, again, so Wisdom Insight, against a creature you can see that isn't incapacitated. It's contested by the target's Charisma Deception check. So you make your Wisdom Insight versus their Deception Charisma check, right? If you succeed, you can use your sneak attack against that target, even if you don't have advantage on the attack roll, but not if you have disadvantage on it. This benefit lasts for 1 minute or until you successfully use this feature against a different target. So basically, the idea is you do not have an ally close enough to enable you to sneak attack. You're not already hidden, and for some reason you didn't feel like using steady aim, because apparently you had to move or something along those lines, right? In which case, you can now make your roll contested by their roll, and if you succeed, you can still sneak attack them as if you had an ally within their proximity. However, you can't do that if you have disadvantage. And that's just a lot of caveats, honestly. And it's not even a free ability, it's using your bonus action. So, you know, that bonus action that you could have used to steady aim or to maybe hide and try to attack from cover or something along those lines, you know, all out the window. And those things would have given you advantage, meaning that you not only have advantage, but you're also automatically eligible to sneak attack. I just find this ability like so underwhelming. If it could cancel disadvantage and allow me to still attack a target with my sneak attack, that could potentially be okay. Because steady aim, which would give me advantage, that could cancel disadvantage and allow me to attack normally. And if I have an ally within 5 feet, I can still sneak attack. But if I don't have an ally within 5 feet, I still can't. So, you know, unlike that ability, this could potentially be a situation where I could cancel out a disadvantage and now I can sneak attack. But it specifically says you cannot do that. So it's not even really useful in that circumstance. I just find that this is an ability which is going to enable us to sneak attack more often, supposedly. But we could probably already use one of our various other methods of getting advantage on the attack and being able to sneak attack. Or we just have an ally close by, in which case we can sneak attack. I feel like if I'm playing a rogue, I've already kind of planned around the idea that I'm going to be using my allies somehow to enable me to sneak attack. In which case, this ability is really not doing a lot. So those are our 3 abilities at level 3. And honestly, I find all of them to be a little on the underwhelming side. Anyways, at level 9 we get Steady Eye. Starting at 9th level, you have advantage on any Wisdom Perception or Intelligence Investigation check if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. Now again, if you're using this out of combat, the movement speed penalty doesn't really matter at all, right? So I don't consider that to be a bad thing at all. Again, having advantage on Wisdom Perception and Intelligence Investigation checks, that's a fine ability. There's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, in an investigation-heavy campaign, that is awesome. It's also worth noting that in a couple levels, you're going to have Reliable Talent, and now having advantage plus Reliable Talent means you probably don't need to like put expertise into either of those skills. You're probably going to be fine just, you know, without them, right? You might want to have proficiency in perception anyways. I probably would, but you're probably going to be good. However, it does also mean that in 2 levels, you probably weren't going to be failing those checks anyways, once you have Reliable Talent. But, you know, advantage plus Reliable Talent is even better, so whatever. I'm not going to complain too much about it. I think this ability is good in the right campaign. In a campaign where I'm not doing a lot of investigation checks or having to solve murder mysteries or whatever and find clues, it has a lot less value. But again, that is common enough perception checks, I mean, that it's not a terrible ability. At level 13, we get unnerving eye. I don't know why everything is eye or ear, but anyways, beginning at 13th level, your senses are almost impossible to foil. But are they though? As an action, you sense the presence of illusions, shape changers not in their original form, and other magic designed to deceive the senses within 30 feet of you, provided you aren't blinded or deafened. You sense that an effect is attempting to trick you, but you gain no insight into what is hidden or into its true nature. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. So once again, more reason to have a good wisdom on my rogue who really needed dexterity, but, you know, that's okay. This isn't a bad ability, honestly. I've had numerous situations where, you know, you find some beautiful damsel in distress in the middle of a dungeon, and you think to yourself, this is probably too good to be true. I do not think that everything is on the up and up here. And so having an ability you can use to discover the truth of that situation is pretty handy. But it doesn't give us specific details. It only lets us know that, yeah, you were right, something crazy is going on here, you know? So again, not a worthless ability by any means, but that situation just may never ever arise again. It's another ability which is great under a very, very limited specific set of circumstances. And you may never face those circumstances at all in your entire career. And, you know, things like Dispel Magic could have dispelled those illusions. Detect Magic could have probably let you know that something weird was going on anyways. There's other solutions. And granted, those solutions may alert the person, like maybe you're trying to play it cool and you're like, is this person a succubi, you know, or some other sort of fiend or whatever that's going to beguile us and then destroy us somehow. Maybe I don't want to be casting spells. That could be really obvious unless I have like subtlety or something from a sorcerer, right? In which case, this ability is going to be a lot better to use. But again, very specific, very limited use. Just not a big fan of it. So finally, at level 17, we have Eye for Weakness. That's right. At 17th level, you learn to exploit a creature's weakness by carefully studying its tactics and movement. While your insightful presence feature applies to a creature, that was the one where we can use our bonus action to cancel out, to give us a sneak attack possibility, even if we didn't have an ally close. So while that feature is active on a target, your sneak attack damage against that creature increases by 3d6. So, I mean, we are 17th level at this point. Our sneak attack damage is pretty high, right? We're actually close to maxing it out entirely, right? So we're at 9 dice 6. This will move us to 12. And a couple of levels, we're going to be at 13 when we use this ability. It's an extra 10 damage or so on average, right? 10.5 damage. But how useful is insightful fighting? In my opinion, it's not great. Other people may have different experiences, they might find that it's very good. And, adding more damage to our sneak attack is a fine ability in and of itself. But I just can't help but feel that, there's just other ways we could have improved our combat prowess that probably would have been better. We could have multi-classed into a fighter and gotten action surge and maybe gotten, some battle master maneuvers or something, allowing us to sneak attack on other people's turns. And that's just going to be way more beneficial than hoping we succeed on this roll so we can get, an extra 3d6 on one attack, per round. I mean, to be fair, right? It lasts a minute. But overall, I just find it to be another very circumstantial ability that requires us to have already used our level 3 ability. And this is a level 17 feature, right? The wizard just got Wish, for crying out loud, and you got an extra 3 dice 6 damage added to your sneak attack. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's no wish spell, that's for sure. Overall, I just find it to be a very disappointing subclass in general. And like I said, in a campaign where maybe we're like Lovecraft style occult investigators and everything's like us trying to like investigate some sort of weird, you know, like Cthulhu style cult, and we're trying to solve mysteries and find clues. This kind of character would perform really, really well in that style of campaign, I think. But how often are you in those styles of campaign? And, you know, there's lots of other characters that would also perform well in that campaign. I do think this character would do very well there, like I said. But overall, it's just, you have a lot of really niche abilities that just may never come into play in an average campaign. Or if they do, they're coming into play like once in the entire thing. And I just don't really like the idea of playing a subclass where I'm that, like, you know, beholden to like the right circumstances and all the stars aligning properly, to use a Cthulhu reference again, you know, and in order for everything to like kind of fall into place and like do my thing, you know. Like, you could be playing like a swashbuckler rogue, and then it doesn't matter if you have an ally ever within 5 feet of you. You just jump in, stab the guy with a rapier, and, you know, you're good, right? Like, you're not having to make a bunch of tests or rolls to see if you're eligible to do it. You just do it. And then on top of that, you've got, you know, other bonuses as well, right? You could be playing a ranged rogue and just using steady aim because you don't care that much if you have to move around, you know? You could be riding a steed and the steed's doing the moving for you. There's just so many other ways to just do the same things but better, I find. It just ends up being a really underwhelming subclass. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the Inquisitive Rogue. I mean, the Mastermind could be worse, to be fair. I haven't decided yet. I'm kind of, you know, sometimes I read one and I'm like, man, this is the worst thing ever. And then I read the other one and I'm like, ooh, maybe not the worst. But, I mean, it is pretty bad in my opinion. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the Inquisitive Rogue. I would love for people to actually, like, disagree with me on this and tell me why they think it's actually not so bad. I've never played one, and I've never seen anybody at my table play one. So maybe this kind of stuff would come up more often than I'm giving it credit for, right? There's a chance that somebody's like, actually, I played one in whatever campaign, and it turned out to be pretty good. You know, I made a bunch of, like, key revelations where I figured out clues and stuff that, you know, everybody else in the party had missed. And because of that, we were able to keep the adventure on track. I would love to actually read those kind of stories, because I don't want to have to, like, trash different subclasses, you know? It doesn't make me happy to, like, complain about the class all the time. I would like the classes and subclasses to all be, like, very well balanced, you know? If everything was, like, an A or B tier, that would be a great game in my opinion. You know, no S's, but no D's and E's, you know? And I think that things would be in a really good spot. But, as I've said before, normally when I'm talking about monks, you know, sugarcoating it or lying to people about the class doesn't do anybody any favors either. And if we ever want better balanced subclasses, we kind of need to be able to realize why certain classes aren't very good and how to maybe make them better. And, you know, we also need to look at things like, you know, Order Domain clerics and think of, like, maybe turning the entire party's hit points into a giant pool that we can just dish out wherever we want. Probably wasn't a good idea in the other direction, you know? So just saying, you know, in the interest of having a better game, some classes need to be lifted up a bit, and some, very few, but a few, nonetheless, are probably a little too good, you know? So anyways, those are my thoughts on the Inquisitive Rogue. Feel free to like, subscribe. I just spit all over my camera, I think. That was very professional. Ring the bell for notifications, and most importantly, leave me your comments in the comment section. Like I said, I would love to see other people's experiences of playing the Inquisitive Rogue. Or, you know what? Maybe you played one and you're like, yeah, you're right. I found a lot of what you complained about. My abilities just never came up, and it sucked. That could happen too. But either way, like I said, I don't have any personal experiences with this subclass, right? So, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. I honestly do. I don't like having a lot of bad subclasses out there, you know? But either way, those are my thoughts. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.